On today's podcast, we are joined by Ashley Fairfield, who is the creative director at JAAQ. Ashley talks to us about his journey from being a digital nomad content creator, seeing the world through the lens of his camera, to returning back to the UK with his wife, where he found the perfect company in which his talents and skills flourished.
Let's go for it.
Alrighty. Ash,
Hello, mate.
thank you for coming onto the show.
Pleasure.
It's our pleasure to have you here for sure.
It's a pleasure to be
I'm
here.
looking forward to where we're going to go in this conversation. So look, let's get started. The viewers at home, audience don't know who you are, so just tell us your name and who you are. What you
Okay. I'm Ash Fairfield. I'm the creative director of JAAQ.
Yeah.
JAAQ.co.uk.
Yeah.
That's in short. That's one line. Is that where we want to start?
That's where we're good.
Okay, let's go.
And something else, so you're also creative director at Warpaint?
That's a complicated question right now.
Okay.
For the last 2 years, let's say that I have been working as head of content producer, within that creative, really building it together with Danny, the founder. And
Yeah.
I think, and now, literally in the last month, I've officially moved over to JAAQ.
Amazing.
And I'm now officially the creative director of JAAQ. So it's easier to just go with that.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, and so look, let's go with a little icebreaker.
Yeah.
What is your favourite childhood memory?
Oh. Wow. And you really didn't want to give me the questions before as well. My favourite childhood memory. Literally all childhood memories have just jumped completely out of my head. But
Was it a movie? Was it a food? Was it a place?
do you know what? Like I have really fond memories as a kid of holidays.
Amazing, yeah.
And I think actually it's not necessarily a specific childhood memory, but it's just being in water as a kid.
Yeah, nice.
And I still love it now. I feel
Yeah.
like we spoke about that a while back, but
yeah.
childhood
Yeah.
in water. You know what? Here, I've got the childhood memory. So, as a kid,
Yeah.
you can invent games out of everything,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
still now as
Yeah.
an adult, let's be honest. But, it's with the sprinkler that...
Yeah.
That's my favourite childhood
running
memory.
through it.
Yeah, but like literally we'd have levels on levels on levels.
I love that.
My
Love
sister
that.
and I. Yeah.
That's good to know. And look, tell us about how your parents would describe you.
Pain in the arse.
I'm sure they're chuckling at home right now as well.
I'm sure they're agreeing with me right now. I genuinely, it may not be so glamorous, but I think my parents would probably describe me as quite difficult.
Interesting.
But mainly because I never accepted things just the way they are.
Yeah.
For good and for bad.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think my parents would say that I'm quite out of the box in everything.
Interesting.
I'm the black sheep of the family.
Very interesting. That's probably why we get along.
Yeah.
To be fair. All right, look, let's talk about your story then.
Okay.
Everyone's got a story. Where did it start for you?
I think for me, this kind of creative awakening started for me, again, back in my childhood when I used to pick up a camera and just go for these walks into the forest. And I really remember now just kind of finding creativity and solemn within photography.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it really started for me. And it's just, we could do a whole podcast for 2 hours on where it went from there. But within each segment of my life, there's been kind of key moments. So, as I go up through school, I met a friend of mine who now lives in South Africa. His name's Garth. And he actually taught me darkroom photography.
Wow. Dark art.
Yeah. He was this guy who's just super, super talented. The kind of person that could literally pick up anything and just make it's just mind-blowingly creative. So he became my muse. He taught me everything I know, but a lot. And so that kind of inspired me to want to go and study a bit more at that university.
Okay. What did you study?
I studied multimedia technology.
Okay,
in Leeds,
Yeah,
Met.
nice. Well, yeah.
Which my university experience was good for socializing.
Yeah.
It was good to get some kind of hands-on experience, like, not that I want to show my age, but back then it was much harder to get the tech.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
get
yeah.
even computers that were powerful enough to run editing software or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I did some cool 3D modeling. I learned loads of stuff that I never want to touch ever again. I think that was quite key for me.
Yeah.
But I think it was more about proving to myself that I could.
Yeah.
But for me, university was more about finding like my business acumen and my like, you know, everything else other than that specific thing. And, you know, I was very kind of active at university. I was doing a lot of youth work and starting up social clubs and, you know, a lot of like life experience that I got from there.
Yeah.
I then went from there and I actually moved to Tel Aviv in Israel.
Amazing.
And out there it started off that I was working on like photography classes and some, like I got asked, can you be the photography expert on a travel group of photographers? And at the time I didn't even call myself a photographer. So I kind of had to like fake it until I make it. And actually they were really accepting and they ended up teaching me a lot and it worked. I was very young, but you know, you just got to say, I kind of have this mantra of like say yes and then figure out how to do it. And that, you know, I lived in Israel for a couple of years and then came back to the UK where I actually did then train to become a professional photographer. And I had a business of events and weddings and bar mitzvahs and all these different corporate events and stuff like that. And so I was photographing that and working alongside film guys. And, you know, again, that went okay. I ended up finding myself with some difficult business partners that I think maybe took advantage of me at the time. And I learned a lot about myself from that. Fast forward, because, you know, it's a long story. I eventually moved back to Tel Aviv. And this is where everything changed for me. And I moved back, a lot had happened in my personal life. And I moved back with the mindset of like, I want to do what I love to do. Literally, like that was it. What do you love to do? And I was like, I love to travel around and I love I love documenting it and I love meeting different people. So I ended up starting a business in Tel Aviv that was probably the only company that specialized in photography for the tourism industry.
Interesting.
And I just thought to myself, right, I can work like 5 days a month and I'll edit for then like another like 5 days a month. That's working 10 days a month. I'll earn all the money that I need and that will be life, right? That was the theory. And the practice was like, more people are asking you, God, can you come and do this? And you can come do this. And before I knew it, I had like offices and a mini team and it had evolved into film as well. And I built like workshops. I built this photography graffiti tour, which became like the biggest photography graffiti tour, the biggest graffiti tour in the country. We did like 3,000 people in a year on this tour, and we were doing like 5 or 6 workshops a day. And we did a vlogging workshop and a light writing workshop, and it was all built on things that I loved. I was like, you know those pictures where the car lights are like zooming? I was like, I want to do that and I want to play with that. So I bought these coloured lights and stuff like that. I was like, this is cool, I'm going to turn that into a workshop. And then others were like, yeah, I love it. And they would just send me groups and groups and groups and families. So that business was really successful in my eyes. I'm not talking like massive, but like I had good money. I had good people working with me. I was doing really great things.
And you're having fun.
Having fun. And that's what it was all about. Like it literally was born from what do I enjoy? And how can I do that for a living?
Amazing.
And then one day, my partner and I were watching videos on YouTube of people traveling the world and making that their career. And we're like, we can do that. Literally, we can do that. We're like, it's a decision, right? Like, if others can do it, especially because at that point, I'd moved from mainly doing photography over to doing more film. I was like, we can do that. So literally one day, we just packed up with the camera gear in the bag, and we went on the road for, we were like, let's just see if we can make this sustainable, that we can do it forever. And we'll just travel forever. Like, that was the plan. And we did. So we started a YouTube channel called A Couple of Dreams. Like and subscribe. No, you don't.
Is it still going? Is it still going?
It's still there. We haven't uploaded anything for 2 years. Yeah, we still get like 50 subscribers a month.
Seriously?
I mean, it's not... we don't make any money from it or anything like that, but it's filled with loads of amazing memories for us. And so we actually did, though. We travelled for 18 months all over the world. We collaborated with all sorts of different people. We did some crazy stuff from like, you know, inviting strangers to a karaoke party, making music videos with the guy we met on the street, like literally abseiling down waterfalls, or like living in the middle of a village with farmers in Nepal, and like all sorts. And we met the most incredible people. And it was a real roller coaster. Like we really traveled the world and did amazing stuff and met amazing people. And once we hit about 18 months, though, we realised that and I think this is with a lot of social media, like a lot of what you see isn't necessarily reality. And so we burnt out. We literally were the definition of the word burnout. Like we couldn't do anything anymore. The creativity had gone. And we realised this when we were in Nepal, in Kathmandu. And we're like, well, let's go and see this temple. Right? And this is the kind of temple that people have on their bucket list. They literally save their entire life to go and see this temple. Right? And we got there, and there were these like hundreds of steps going up, and this beautiful temple on the top, and these like wild monkeys around, and we just didn't care. And we realized like this is wrong. Like something is wrong. Like if we don't care, then something's wrong. And we realized we just completely burnt out. And my partner decided that she wanted to come to London to study her masters. And so that brought us into London, and actually brought with me like depression. I was like, I'd gone from literally like doing everything that I could possibly want to be doing, decided like living my life saying I only want to do what I love, to being back in kind of my hometown. It was cold, like it was miserable. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I decided, you know what, I will, for the first time in my life, I will go and get a proper job. Right? I'll take scary. Literally, for the first time ever, I'd been freelance my entire life. I'd earned okay money. I'd done things that I love, but I was like, right, I've got 2 years. I said 2 years, I'm going. Like, that's it. I will go and get a job and gain some experience from working in London. Little did I know, it was tough at the beginning, but eventually, like, I didn't get any interviews, actually. Like, at the beginning, I really struggled, because whilst I had such a wide skill set, I'd done such a broad range of work, it's really hard to show that in a CV, even in a show reel. Like, I don't think people were even watching the show reel, which was really good, by the way.
It must be frustrating.
Yeah, it was so frustrating, but then eventually, like, I managed to get one interview. And that ended up me taking this job as a content creator within War Paint for Men, which is a men's makeup company. And I'd seen this guy, Danny, who's my boss, on Dragon's Den. And I was actually, my partner, Rotem, she was like, you should work for someone like that. As he was talking about his journey with mental health, you should work for someone like that. Fast forward again, I eventually got the job at War Paint, and after chatting with Danny, we realised that we don't want me to come in and be Mr. Corporate doing corporate content in the way that corporates do it. We want me to bring that soul, that personality to the brand, and do it in that more rough, real way.
Authentic.
So that's what I did for the first 2 years at War Paint. I was literally just following Danny around, creating content. Literally, we created a YouTube series that's all there. Like, you can go and watch it. It all started like that, very, very organically. And as I was in this corporate setting with what at the time was quite a small business, there were so many other opportunities where actually this mentality of like not doing it the way that a corporate content team would do it, but doing it with a little bit of personality, a bit of soul. Like you create a video and you put some bloopers at the end, or like, someone messes up and you just leave it because it's funny. That's what people want to see. And we realize that people are like raving about this content. And, now looking back on it after 2 years, we understood that actually that combination of Danny's personality, his rawness, his realness, and the way that I would showcase that has become kind of the soul of Warpaint in a way. It's really built that brand in a really nice way.
That's an amazing way to build a brand.
Yeah.
Because it's two people's authenticity coming together to create something amazing. It's fantastic.
And actually the two of us work really well together. Like, like we bounce ideas off really well. So that started like that, and then the culmination, which we will talk about, because you've told me that we're going to talk about it more, is Danny and I and a few others actually built a new mental health website using a cool AI platform called JAAQ. And that's where I am today. That's my story.
Amazing.
That's like a 20-minute podcast in itself.
Okay, and so let's break a bit of that down. And so that's where you are right now. In terms of you as a person, where do you feel like you've kind of arrived? I know that's a very loose question.
No, you know what? It's a very real question, because I think, like a lot of people, like, I have proper imposter syndrome. Like, it took me maybe 10 years before I would call myself a professional photographer. Because, it's not like being a doctor or a lawyer. You qualify and you can say, I'm now a doctor. Or you qualify and you say, I'm now a lawyer. Like, anyone can call themselves a photographer. And I got that. And I would be looking around, I'd be seeing these super, super talented people. Still to this day, I know that there are people so much more talented than me. And when I compare myself to them, I'm not creative in my head. So I think now I'm at this stage where I'm realizing that I guess I have things that I can bring to the world. I have my style, my way, and that's good. Like, people like that, and I like that, and I enjoy it. And if that's where I kind of live and work from, then that's the most important thing.
And where did it click that I bring value to the world? And that could have been even a series of events, but like...
Do you know what? I think it's still clicking.
Yeah, interesting.
I think it's still clicking. Like, some days I'll wake up, I'll be like, I am the best. Like, I'm a I'm a creative genius, and like, I'm this like creative director for this like massive startup, and it's going really... And like, that happens occasionally. And like, the other days I'll be like, I don't know what I'm doing. So...
Which is a lot of people, by the way.
I think, where did it click? I think it's still clicking. I'm very much outward driven. So, and I don't like that. Like, I want to be more inward driven. I want to understand what it is more that fulfills my purpose from the inside. But I'm still very much like, I like the praise. I like the comments. I like people enjoying. I like seeing a successful project. And
even as you're saying that, I can hear the worldly perception of that coming across as insecurity or not being able to kind of stand on your own 2 feet in order to know whether you're doing well. But there are certain talent combinations, again, coming from my coaching background, that rely on feedback. And they really use that feedback to hone what they do. And I can hear that there's an ability for you to kind of put the feelers out and take in all the feedback to refine what you're doing.
I get that.
So it's not a bad thing.
No. Do you know what? I think actually, even though I worked for myself my whole life, I think actually coming into something a little bit more structured was really good for me, because within that structured environment, getting that feedback to say like, this is really good. Like, this is the best we've ever seen. To have people coming to Warpaint and saying, what agency did you use? And they're like, no, we didn't use an agency. Well, how big is your production team? No, it's one guy.
One guy. Amazing.
So that that was important feedback for me, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And again, like, even you going on that journey of being an entrepreneur and kind of doing everything by yourself can be almost a parallel to like having no parents and growing up with no parents and raising yourself, versus having parents that are kind of reinforcing you until you're ready to go out into the world.
Totally. I think there's actually some reality in that. Not saying that I didn't have parents.
Yeah.
But my parents were very business driven.
Yeah.
And they weren't as present as maybe that they would admit this.
Yeah.
But they weren't as present as maybe that they would want to have been.
Yeah.
And so I was very independent from a very young age.
Yeah.
So I think that there probably is some
double parallels
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And it's weird. So now you've gone back under the umbrella of some parents in the fact that you're working for a company.
Yeah.
So what is that like now? How do you kind of manage that?
I'm very fortunate that even within that work environment, they see the necessity of giving me freedom.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like they see not the necessity but the value of giving me freedom within projects. And I think that giving me a structure and then freedom within that structure is really good for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Right. So here at Beyond the Mojo, we have this definition around the word mojo, and people finding their mojo. Yeah. In a sense where it's not necessarily that they find this success point, but they find this pathway that is constantly leading them towards what success means for them. So finding your mojo is finding that pathway. So first of all, let me just ask you, how would you define success for yourself?
Oh, it's definitely not financial based, and I think that's really important. I think that the finances are really important, and it's a really easy indicator, but it's not. It's not. It's not the indicator for me. I think. How would I define success?
Like, how will you know when you've made it for you?
I feel like I've made it. Like it's gonna be crazy because the beginning of this podcast is gonna be me talking about how I have imposter syndrome, but it is this like this constant balance between this feeling of I'm really successful and I don't know what I'm doing, and there is. That's real.
Yeah.
That's really real.
Yeah.
And so like there are definite huge parts of me where I'm really proud of myself, and I think that is part of what drives me. Like if I felt like I wasn't successful, I would probably quit.
Interesting.
Like, or if I felt like I wasn't going to be successful.
Yeah.
Like I can really see like future success. Like I definitely have the ability to be way more successful. I know that I have a lot more to bring to the world, and there's a lot coming in this space.
Yeah.
But I think that I can only ever compare myself to where I could expect myself to be now. And I think right now, I'm as successful as I could ever have wildly dreamed that I could have been successful for right now.
I love that.
Like, if you asked me 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I'd be like, there's something like, you're crazy. Like you're crazy. Like, there's no way that is going to be me. Like, that's the opposite of me, right? Like getting on a train and commuting into London and sitting at a desk. That like I was like the biggest advocate against that. But then even a few months ago, like, and I think that is really important. Like, I'm really trying to kind of appreciate where I've got to, and visualize where I can get to, and the understanding of the importance of that right now is really driving me. because I'm realizing that the more I realize that I'm good,
Yeah.
like I can, you know, like I've suffered from a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what anxiety was
Yeah,
until I
yeah.
took this job,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now I understand it. Like
Yeah.
really, a lot of anxiety of this
Yeah.
feeling of not being good enough.
Yes.
And I say this confidently in this conversation.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I could be like
Yeah.
feeling not
Yeah.
like I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
But if I genuinely stop
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
like even with this podcast,
Yeah, yeah.
when you first said to me, I want to put you on the podcast,
Yeah.
my head was like, would you, what, like, why do you want to talk to me? Like,
Yeah,
what do
yeah.
I have to share with the world? And
Yeah.
the more I thought about it, you know, like, in not an arrogant way, like,
Yeah.
I do,
You
like,
do.
I do.
Absolutely.
I've lived life, and I have
Absolutely.
things to share, and, like,
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself,
Yeah.
and I should be.
Yeah.
Like, and, yeah.
Yeah. And you actually said it. A lot of people, including myself at times, have this question that they're constantly pondering on. It's, am I okay?
Yeah.
And the okay is defined at times by the people outside and at times by themselves looking at themselves. But it's a constant balance between those two elements saying you are okay or you're not okay.
Yeah.
And how that question is answered has a massive impact on how a person is.
Totally.
So the fact that you're coming to that conclusion that, yes, I am okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I can deliver value to the world. Yes, I can talk about the value I'm delivering is almost a general upping of the level of your perception of you being okay.
Totally.
Which just results in
And the
confidence.
times that I struggle the most
Yeah.
is when I compare myself to others.
Yeah.
Like, because the second I start comparing myself to others,
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest failure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think that happens no matter what
Yeah.
level you're at.
And I'd say that we were never ever supposed to compare ourselves to others.
Never.
Because you are not someone else. You can never be someone
Yeah.
else. And comparing yourself to someone else means you're always going to be failing because you're not them.
Yeah, and the second that you try and be them,
Yeah,
you're going to fail.
absolutely.
Because the only person you can do is you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Bang on, bang on.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so like, give me a day where you are absolutely smashing it. And you feel like you're on top of the world, you're really hitting every kind of milestone that you want to be hitting, or really every marker for you, and that says you're doing well. What does that day look like for you? What's a good day?
It's a tough one in the creative world because when I'm engrossed in projects, I'm super critical, hypercritical of myself and the work that's being created.
Yeah.
So I almost don't allow myself too much at that point to say, this is a good day.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think in general, like I really enjoy the creative process, and it happens for me often. So like good days for me happen really often, and it's those days. I had one last week, and it wasn't even about the specifics of what I did, but I sat down at my desk.
Yeah.
I sent 2 emails.
Yeah.
I got up, and things happened all day.
Wow.
And it wasn't till like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I sit back down at my desk. I answer a couple more emails, and I go home. Right, and that whole day had been like running around the office, like not like from meeting to meeting, but like creative juices. You know, we had a what's it called?
Whiteboarding session.
Yeah, but with the note paper,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
like
yeah,
a big
yeah.
board
Flip
paper,
chart, yeah.
flip charts,
Yeah.
scribbling things, ideas, and it's like, oh yeah, that's that, and that's that. Like, I love that
Yeah,
creative
yeah.
process. Like I thrive on it. Like I'm
Yes.
bouncing around the room.
Yes.
I was like saying to people, you got to film this. You got to film this. Like this needs to be filmed because it's never filmed, right? You never document that process, like that moment that someone came up with the idea for like Google, right?
Yeah.
How cool if you could watch that.
Yes.
But those are those are good days for me.
Do you know, it's so funny that your creative process is thinking about your creative process
Right.
and capturing your creative process.
Totally, it's a cycle that can't be broken. If it's not recorded, it didn't happen.
All right, so then, last question really around you. If you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old self face to face, what would be one piece of advice you'd give yourself?
I think it would be about but believing in yourself maybe a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've always felt different in everything.
Yes.
You know, like, even growing up being the only, like, Jewish kid in your school. Like, literally the only one.
Yeah.
And then, like, even though I wasn't religious, I felt different.
Yeah.
And then even within my family, my whole family, my cousins, my aunties and uncles would live in London. And I grew up in, like, Berkshire. So, like, even within my family, I'd feel different. And then, like, you know, then eventually I moved to Israel and with, like, loads of Jews. And I'm the only English one. Like, and I'm different again. And so that whole life, I've just felt different. I'm giving physical examples, but it's way more than that. Like, I think within myself, like, I just, like, and I think, like, if I learned now, so now I'm learning to trust that much more, and it's like a fire, like, it's thriving. And if I learned to trust that much earlier, and not so much try and be this chameleon that we were mentioning before this book, but like to like finding out who I am much more, listening to myself, understanding, maybe kind of believing in myself a little bit more, and not just, I always had belief, but it was shallow. It was like surface belief rather than like internal belief. I think believing in myself much more, I think, would be great advice. Like, it's okay. It's okay that you're different. If anything, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, an absolute good thing.
I would love to go back to my, even my, like, 12-year-old self.
Yeah, and like, even as parents, for us, it's trying to understand the difference in our kids and celebrate that as early as possible so they gain that confidence. I think our parents didn't have the psychology and the outlook that we have now and that perspective, so they couldn't necessarily do that. But
especially in that education is a structure, and you have people that fit and people that don't. But it doesn't mean the ones that don't, like, there's something wrong with them. Like, the opposite. Like,
absolutely. You don't start me off on the subject, because I will go on.
This is where the dyslexia comes in, right?
And actually, let's go there.
Let's go there. Yeah.
For me, it was this understanding of not being as quick as everybody else in the class. And those people who were really quick, doing really well and connecting with the teachers at the front of the class, and me kind of being left to the side, or extra effort being put on because there was something wrong with me. And there's no understanding of how I'm wired being a good thing.
Totally.
Because it was all being measured by one kind of method.
Exactly.
What was your kind of experience of that?
Exactly the same. Like, I think that was where I learned to feel like a failure.
Yeah, bang on.
I really remember in history class, right, the teacher would write, like, lines and lines and lines and lines and lines on the board, and we just had to copy it out into our notebook, which for a kid who is dyslexic is a nightmare. And I would never finish before they finished. And there were these annoying little kids at the front who were like, "Finish, miss." And I'm like on the second line, right? And the whole class would have to wait for me. And it was I think that's where I learned failure, anxiety, stress. Like, and for what? Like, for what?
For nothing.
I think, though, at the same time, that like, having severe dyslexia in a school environment maybe fired my creativity and personality.
Interesting.
Because I had to figure out other ways to survive in that scenario that isn't built for me.
Very interesting.
And I think that that's where it comes really interesting into the corporate world now, because like, obviously both you and I are dyslexic. My boss Danny is also dyslexic, and we talk about it all the time. He's like, "Send me a long email and you've lost me." He's like, "Send me a voice note." I'm yours.
You got me.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that time's changing. Times are changing. Like, the world is suddenly starting to realise that, you know, it's not necessarily as black and white.
Absolutely. And look, I had copy this morning for a new website that's been developed. I have Speechify. I literally pressed play and was listening to it over and pressing play and listening to it over again, section by section, and it just makes life a whole lot more easy. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The world is flexing. So look, that's I kind of segue into the dyslexia kind of perspective. Tell us about JAAQ, because I know that's obviously something you've been working about. You touched on the beginning.
I would love to tell you about JAAQ. JAAQ was born out of, I guess, a range of conversations with Danny Gray, who's the founder of Warpaint. So to understand JAAQ, I need to give you a little bit about Danny. Danny has suffered his entire life with body dysmorphia. To the point that when he was younger, his sister gave him a little bit of makeup. Using that makeup gave him a huge amount of confidence. After wearing makeup secretly as, you know, just a straight male, you know, not stereotypically, you know, just a straight male wearing makeup for 20 years, he was like, you know what, there's going to be a lot of other guys, gay, straight, doesn't really matter, but there's going to be a lot of other men out there who would really benefit from a product like this. So when he started Warpaint for Men, actually, he was on Dragon's Den. Great pitch.
Yeah, we saw him there.
And Warpaint was born from that. And actually there was a lot of customers and consumers writing in saying, you know, thank you so much, you know, since using this product, you've given me a huge amount of confidence. But the whole business was built around this mental health aspect. It was built from Danny's body dysmorphia. Now, rewind last December. So, yeah, a year ago now. We get access of a really cool bit of technology that uses voice recognition and AI that you can click a button and ask someone a question. So what we have done with JAAQ is we've basically taken that technology, we've paired it together with world-leading experts and people with experience in the world of mental health.
Amazing.
And the non-profit business that we've launched is a website, JAAQ.co.uk, JAAQ.
Yeah, let's get that
Just
spelling
ask
correct.
a question.
Excellent.
It stands for Just Ask Questions. So JAAQ, JAAQ.co.uk. And basically that's exactly what we've done. So it's a website you can come to and you can ask world-leading doctors and people with experience questions on mental health. And you literally just click a button, ask them, and they answer you.
It's unbelievable. And like when you first go onto it, I've heard the description and then you showed me, it's like, can this really be real?
Yeah.
But literally, you can ask a question and it will literally, the AI in the background is just finding the answer that
so
fits best.
we film them for about 200 questions. And we work with linguists for each of those questions. And then we'll create, say, 10 questions based on each question. And so if you imagine those 200 questions start to they become 2,000 questions very, very quickly. And so you can kind of and then the AI will just map it. So you can ask almost anything and it will map the best answer to you, which is really cool.
Unreal, unbelievable.
And it's quite hard to think of 150 questions. It's like 5 hours of this doctor's time. So there's a lot of information there.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And so give us a sense of what sort of topics are on the site.
At the moment on there is depression, body dysmorphia and psychosis. So there's 6 experiences there because you've got a world-leading doctor and you've got someone with experience. And we started from there literally because that's what we could get. You know, we know that there are other really big conditions that we will tackle, but we needed to start from somewhere. We managed to get the world-leading doctor on depression. And we also then managed to get Alistair Campbell, who is a huge advocate for his experiences with depression. And, you know, he speaks incredibly. He's actually become the biggest supporter of JAAQ. He's like a patron of ours now, pretty much. He's like our poster guy. We love Alistair Campbell. Big fans boy. Right now. And so then he also connected us then to a British actor called David Harewood, who had psychosis. So he was in like Homeland and Supergirl and Blood Diamond, and so he had an experience with psychosis. So we also managed to get a leading doctor on psychosis. We started there, but we also filmed OCD. We're just waiting for a person with experience. We've also in the pipeline. I don't know when this is going to go out, but fingers crossed it might even be live. Jimmy Carr has committed to do it. We just kind of need to tie him down and get that filmed soon. He's going to be talking about anxiety. And so we've got the world leading doctor on anxiety as well. We're actually in the process of filming suicide. And so we've got literally world leaders on suicide. And we really hope to expand it to like everything, every single mental health condition. We really we want those experiences there. We're also doing really cool stuff with sport as well. So mental health in the world of sport. We started working with rugby league to start with, and we've filmed already a couple of like England and world leading rugby league players. We've got a van, a JAAQ van. We were donated a van. We've kitted that out completely. So we've got a mobile JAAQ experience. So we're going to drive that van February 18th, COVID providing. To a rugby league game where, you know, all the fans can come, they can sit in the van, ask their hero questions about how he deals with mental health, taking it to a school as well, so that they can ask their rugby hero in Wigan, because we're working with Wigan Warriors. Loads. There's so much that we're doing. We also have a physical space in Carnaby Street, in the bottom of the war paint store, where you can come into a pod and, again, full life-size experience, and you can come and... So it's been really exciting for me as a creative. It's such a dream because we didn't talk so much before, but like I've learned over the last few years the importance of purpose, finding your purpose. And whilst I love creativity, it's tough for me to just do stuff because that's my career or because I want to make money. But knowing that the content that I'm creating is actually serving a much bigger purpose, actually getting important information out there to the world that is helping thousands and thousands of people, it's way more meaningful. That's success.
You hit it. And you know, even as you're talking about that, I can hear you coming to the surface. It's not every creative that necessarily needs a purpose. Some people just want to be creative and see that creativity play out. But the part of you that's coming to surface is that everything I do must be supported by somewhere where I'm going to make an impact, or someone who's going to be impacted by what I'm doing, which is incredible. But that's you coming right there.
I think we realised that with, you know, like when I go back to the beginning and I talk about like we were on this journey doing YouTube videos and we burnt out. Like I think that's because we lost our purpose. And now I just feel like I'm on this crazy journey and it's filled with purpose, and I'm learning like as well, like as long as I feel like I'm growing and I'm developing, I'm learning, like that's my fire.
Smells like mojo, baby.
That's my mojo.
Oh, I love it. And so you say you've got lots of plans in the pipeline.
Yes.
What's 2022 looking like?
2022 is going to be mad in a really exciting way. So I think that one of the massive selling points about Danny Gray and the businesses that he leads is brand. And I think that he's realised that I am a very key player in his vision of building a brand. And so I have very much learned how to take his amazing, crazy, creative ideas and funnel them into visual things. And so together we're very much building brand. So I think that is the number one on my radar, like from a top sense. Like we want to build the coolest mental health brand on the planet. Right? We're really sick of these very clinical looking charities that are white guys in a white shirt and a lanyard giving a lecture, like to camera, or a speech bubble with eyes and little, you know, like that's not relatable. You know, it doesn't, like, it hurts me. It hurts my soul to see. We want something that's cool, that people are like, wow, it's gonna make me emotive in some way. It's gonna make me laugh. It's gonna make me cry. It's gonna make me angry. It's gonna, you know, I can relate to this in some way, shape, or form. And I think that drives everything that I'm doing from a brand perspective. So that's my big top vision in 2022. But we need to fund this website, and at the moment, you know, it's non-profit website. So we've started up a corporate wing of the business, where we're looking, rather than becoming a charity and going around asking for handouts, which is too slow for us. We want this amazing resource in the hands of everyone. It will always be free, like always. We don't want to run ads on it. And if we go around trying to get funding, that's really, really tough. So we're like, well, let's build a business that will still have purpose, still be doing mental health related things, but for corporates that have more money than us, that they can then subscribe to this, you know, corporate feature, benefit their employees, and at the same time fund this amazing non-for-profit.
Amazing. Yeah. And pause it there. Do you want to go into the detail?
We can go into a little bit of detail.
How much do you want to go into?
You can ask questions and I'll answer based on what I can answer.
Okay. So, So if I was a corporate customer and I'm really interested in what you're saying and I wanted to find out more, what could I expect from the business side of JAAQ?
So I think the business side of JAAQ is we want to create resources that companies can easily offer their staff that will help them with their mental health and well-being. So we have a platform and a brand that is cool, that's engageable, that is relatable, that's really easy to use, that is backed up by, it sounds arrogant, but amazing content, that, you know, everything we have behind the scenes of everything like that. But in the structure of it, you know, employees, just like, you know, every other general member of the public, want to gain information that will support them in their everyday life. And so what we're doing is we're packaging some of those things up and we're helping companies deliver that information in a more corporate specific way to their employees, if that makes sense.
So we're talking specifically about that AI technology and repurposing that.
So it's still very simple, very similar to the non-profit. It's still about clicking a button and asking someone with experience or someone with the knowledge questions about mental health, but in a corporate setting. And that there's information that employers can learn about their employees, the data that will then support the employees but still be completely anonymous. So for example, if employees were able to know that their employers were asking 80% more questions about stress or burnout or anxiety than the national average or the average compared to other companies within their sector, then they can do something about that. And that's completely anonymous. It's not like the employee, they know this employee is asking more. Like they don't know that, but they will be able to know the global data, which if you sent your whole company to therapy, that would be amazing, by the way. But it's not necessarily always possible. But this is a great start to say like, right, well, you know what? Our company is off the charts in terms of the data around anxiety. We need to start providing some resources around anxiety.
Yeah, the ideas part of my brain is already going crazy listening to this, because imagine if you could, from a corporate point of view, be an employee, ask questions around this particular issue you're facing, and then have a further click through straight through to some coaching or counselling. Specifically, that's like it feels like you've taken an employee down the right path and really easy path to getting help without it being an open cry for help.
But this is the thing. So we talk about that difference between crisis point. And you know, when you look at the world of mental health, call centres are inundated with people calling at crisis.
Yeah.
And often at that point, not saying that it's too late, but it's very, very difficult to get the right support once you've hit that crisis point.
Yeah.
But what we want to try and do is to try and help people before they reach crisis.
Yeah.
And it's just about giving them the right information at the right time.
Yeah.
And we're definitely not a replacement for therapy or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Much the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
We're really hoping that we will support the clinical professionals within the mental health world, the therapists out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're really hoping that we'll support them by giving people the basis of information.
Yeah.
Like when I talk about myself, I can say like I had no idea what anxiety was until I sat down and listened to a doctor or someone with experience explain what their experience was of anxiety, and I was like, wait a second, that shortness of breath, that feeling like you're up here, I feel like that.
Yeah.
And just in an instant, just hearing that, I just felt way more relaxed.
Amazing.
And if just in that tiny experience, we can help other people, whether it's through the corporate or through the non-for-profit, job done. You know, like that's a win.
Yeah, and exactly what you're talking about. When you say job done, you've literally acted as the bridge.
Yeah.
For people to go from the point where they're feeling all of these things to getting answers to all these things that they're feeling, and then potentially onwards to prevention, which is incredible.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information in the experiences about how to get more help.
Yeah.
Where to get more help from, the kind of help that you can get.
Yeah.
You know, or something that there's very little information out there is about how to support someone who has it. Yeah. You know, like
in the coolest way possible.
In the coolest way possible, right? In a relatable like
absolutely.
You know, Danny answers a question on his body dysmorphia experience about how it affects his kids. And you know, you see him get really, really emotional, but you know, that is really, really powerful because it's not necessarily something that people would think about or talk about. Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff like that. If you think about parents who have kids with eating disorders, severe eating disorders, it's really, really hard / impossible for someone who doesn't have an eating disorder to understand what it's like for someone who does. Yeah. And so that parent might be like, eat. Like, why won't you just eat? But that's potentially the worst thing that you could do. So if but those parents are coming from a point where they just love their kids and they want to help them and they want to support them. So if they can ask that question and get some tips and some things to say or not to say that might help their children, then, you know, we've helped kids, we've helped parents, we've helped
And how much better that could be coming from a celebrity that they would recognise from being a very cool person on TV. I sound like a dad, but like a cool person on TV who's talking about the stuff that they're going through. Yeah. You've literally come up with the perfect formula to help people.
Yeah. Or even the doctor, like even if you don't know who he is, if we want to make JAAQ a reputable source of information, so we're making sure that they are world leaders, world leading doctors, and so that way, you can trust the information. Yeah. And I think that's really hard. If you to Google, like, what is depression or anything, you're faced with millions of information. Yeah. Or you can just ask one question to the world leading doctor.
Unreal. Who would ever get that platform or that opportunity? Yeah. Unbelievable. My head is blown. Every time we have this conversation, my head is blown. You've successfully done it again. Yes.
I blow my own mind, by the way. Like, in the shower this morning, I got out the shower and I said to my fiance, I was like, I've had an idea. And I wrote it all down, and it's like, there's a lot more to come from this space.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm looking forward to working with you more. I know we're going to have further conversations. For anyone who really wants to go to this site and really wants to check this out because they're as excited as we are, talk to us about where you can see this.
So JAAQ stands for Just Ask a Question. Yeah. So it's JAAQ.co.uk. Yeah. When you come onto the website, there is a short film that is completely anonymous. Yeah. If you're unsure how anonymous it is, click the button, watch the video and it will tell you a little bit more, but just put in the details. You only need to do it the first time. It's not name, address, it's GDPR compliant, but it will take you to the website. Simple as that. You can also check us out on JAAQ Official, on all the social medias, all of them, even TikTok. We are there. There's loads of content, and it's not just experiences that you can click and ask a question to. There's loads of all the behind the scenes process if you want to see how we film it and how we make it. It's fun.
And if I was a corporate client and I'm really intrigued by what you're talking about from a corporate point of view, what would I do?
Again, through the website, there's a contact us form. That will get straight to us. We're a very lean team, or through any of the social medias. Or you can send me an email, ash@jaaq.co.uk.
Excellent. Oh, look, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I always say this, but we're going to have you back on to kind of hear how it's evolved.
It would be an honour.
JAAQ 2.0, where that is.
There will be. Speak to us in a year. It will be completely different. But
but thank you.
Thank you so much, mate.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Peace.